What's up, guys? It's Ben. Coming back here with a whole new setup with the for Shut the Punk Up. I have a very special guest, Alex. He's from the band Recurrence, and he's cool. I've known him for quite a while, in various circles, and he does. He's been doing a lot of like really cool little like weekend warrior tours. So I wanted to bring him on, see how his band is doing, see kind of learn more about his band and learn more about the Weekend Warrior tour life. So I'm gonna bring him back up on here on stage here. Alex,
Hey,
what's
how's it
up,
going?
dude? How are you
Hey,
tonight?
Ben. Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem, dude. So I guess first off, start off and say who you are and introduce yourself, and then like let us know kind of how you got into music. Like how'd you become a vocalist for a metal band?
So I'm Alex Bastian, I'm the vocalist of Recurrence, and I started the band like way back in 2008 after my first band that I started in high school kind of it fizzled out because we were all had different opinions on what kind of music we should do and trying to get things written and recorded and didn't work out. So I started Recurrence as a way to kind of get my ideas out musically, and I started like learning like guitar and like how to write songs and that sort of thing. So when I started Recurrence, originally I was switched from vocals because I was doing vocals in my previous band to guitar. Um, but it turns out it's a lot harder to find a vocalist, I guess, than a guitarist at the time. And I just always kind of had the desire to be like a front man. So that's kind of how I started back in the day. And we played our first show in 2011, and I think we did about 33 shows up until 2014, and then things kind of fizzled out with the lineup that we had. When you're young, it's kind of hard to keep a band together, especially like at that age, different life things going on, that sort of thing. So,
It is difficult.
uh,
I can attest.
yeah, yeah, very much so. So, like, yeah, kind of went into hibernation for a while and just had things going on in life, and ended up wanting to try to get things going again because it's really just my dream to be like making music and performing like live and like being on stage, like touring, like all these bands that I look up to, they just like tour the whole time, like the years, and just put out albums. And that's something I've always wanted to do since, I was a kid. Um, I started Recurrence back up again, and the debut album, because back when I was doing the first runs of it, we got like a demo and an EP recorded, but we never ended up getting like a first album out. So the first album came out in 2023.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it had like what 15 years or something to get a first album out, but never give up, I guess. So
Dude, I feel that. I think with my band, we never did a full album. We always had enough songs to do plenty of albums, but it was never, obviously it's expensive to record and to tour and
yeah,
all that. But I think that like, the EP was the way to go. So we always did like singles with a music video or some EPs. But I think actually it's we're coming up on like this new way to kind of market music because of how quickly technology's changing. Algorithms keep people's attention for almost no time at all. So really, like it's in a band's best interest to put out um, you know, constant new music. So maybe the album is dying and we're just gonna get singles. Obviously like these mega artists, like Post Malone or something like that, they're gonna keep doing albums. That's just gonna happen. But like the DIY, kind of even mid-tier bands, put out a song with a music video, wait a couple more months, maybe put out another one. Over time it adds up to an album. I don't know, Falling in a Verse, familiar?
but yeah,
Yeah, like I mean Ronnie, those guys put out I think like 6 singles before they did the album, and they I don't know, they the album was fantastic, but so how did Recurrence start? Like what was the driving factor into you getting this thing going?
like starting it back up, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like I was kind of in like a not great place in life for a few years. Partially due to the band like kind of like fading out a little bit, but other stuff in life going on. And so there was like a lot of years I was really just checked out of life and it just wasn't going well. And I can't really say specific, like I wish I could pinpoint exactly what it was that kind of got me out of it and started like being motivated again. But I think it was just a couple things over a certain period of time where I just kind of realized like, even if like, making music and keeping a band together and that sort of thing is like a challenge, and it's just something I knew that I wanted to do, and I felt like I was like, you know, trying to think of a way to say it that doesn't sound like dramatic, but it's like I said, it's been my dream, and I felt like the dream had like died, and so like a part of me had died, and I just figured that the only way to like keep going was like I had to make it happen. Um, so that's kind of really what like how I got it going out again. And back when I did, it was still just me at the time, and I had the whole album, like I had all these songs written, for years, but we never recorded. People don't like recording. It's not fun, so it's hard to
Yeah.
get people to be focused and stuff. And we had some bad experiences with some people that we recorded with, and like either ripped us off or they recorded and like they didn't know what they were doing. So like we just spent all this time and money and it just didn't turn out well. So I basically put like all the savings that I've had over the years, like at my jobs and stuff, into like getting the album like recorded, like because I used to be able to kind of play guitar all right, but like I haven't been playing guitar, so it's like something where I was never like skilled enough to record the stuff that I was writing. So I just saved up money to like hire a professional to record the guitars for me.
Nice.
And that's kind of what I did to get the album recorded. I recorded my own vocals and everything. Um, and then I ended up getting in touch with JF Dagenet, the guitarist of Cataclysm, because I've been a huge fan of Cataclysm, and I found out that he like mixes and masters. And I was like, well, I've got this album that I recorded, but I don't have anyone to mix and master it. So I got in touch with him, and he ended up doing the first album and our newest album too. But really, once I got that album out, it felt like a proper, like real release, and it made it a lot easier for me to like go to people and be like, "Hey, this is what I've got. Like, are you interested?" Because before I didn't really have any music. I had like some demos and some EP from forever ago, and it's hard to get people like behind that sort of thing.
I
Um,
think that there's like there is something to say about like it giving a band legitimacy to um have a full album, because it's kind of like if you're running for office or something and you don't have yard signs, like the yard signs don't do anything. You're probably not winning votes over, but like if you don't have yard signs, you're not a serious candidate. You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, so I understand. It's not that case for everyone, but I think that like there's something, it gives you like more legitimacy, and I think that like people appreciate the grind that it takes to get there too.
Yeah.
So like, it's good to have that and have so much music in your library, you know what I mean? So,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I grew up like listening to all these bands that I'm influenced by, and like, they all just put out album after album after album, and I mean, they were signed to major labels and doing it full time, but that's just kind of how I saw things, and especially artistically, I mean, for me, like I write a lot of different music, and like I kind of have a an overall theme for the album and like what I wanted to do and say and like how it flows. And I mean, with an EP, you can have a concept and everything like that and make it flow. But I feel like with an album, and maybe again, like you said, it's different with music. Everything's just like a single nowadays. But when I used to listen to an album, I would listen to it from start to finish. And there's something that to be said about the way that like certain tracks flow into one another, that it's kind of a whole experience, for an hour. So that's just kind of how I've always like listened to music and just kind of experienced it, because again, like sometimes I would forget like music is an art form. Like I don't feel like an artist, like I feel like artists are like painters and like people that draw, but music is still it's an art form, and it's something that when you think about it artistically, like there's certain songs that like fit together and like how they flow and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like, if you're watching, if you got a TV show, you don't like just start with like episode 5 and like just skip around. You kind of start and go in order. So I kind of like try to bring that element into the album process itself. And I mean, if I did an EP, then it would be a similar fashion too. But that's just kind of how I was looking at it when I was
There's
doing it. Yeah.
something, like there's something therapeutic about going to concerts, obviously, but also like, you know, obviously there's something very therapeutic about writing music too and like being able to perform it. Cause like you have all that emotion, you know what I mean, that goes into whatever you're playing or you're singing or you're writing, for lyrics and stuff like that. And then, to be able to get that and translate it into a live performance, kind of put that emotion into action. I don't know. That's why people go to concerts. You know what I mean? They come to connect with people and to connect with music. And then
Yeah.
obviously you guys, you're metal. So how did you like what are your favorite bands and your influences and stuff like that? So um obviously you've been doing this for a while, so I'm assuming that it changes over time, especially new band members come in, maybe they bring in some of their own influences, right? Um, but it's a lot to kind of find that perfect mixture of what everybody likes to play and make it into one big super music baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely say that was probably some of the issues that I had like with my first band too. And why, like I said, why I started Recurrence was to try to get like the stuff that I was had in my head and was like my vision for the music and everything. And I mean, yeah, my influences have changed, like especially since I was young, like listening to like radio rock and like country music, like what my parents listened to. And like I remember when I first like heard metal with like screaming, like death metal, I was just like, oh, they're just screaming. I don't like this. I can't understand them. This isn't music. I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, I started going to like Ozfest and stuff, like, and just seeing all these like bands and they're all screaming and it just grew on me and like the energy behind it. And so I've been mostly influenced by like, well, within metal, because like I really do listen to like a lot of genres, like a lot of pop and rap and all kinds of music. But metal, I've been really influenced by like a lot of like the melodic death metal bands from like Sweden and stuff, or like Scandinavia. So like Dark Tranquillity and Soilwork. Like In Flames, Arch Enemy, Scar Symmetry, all those kinds of bands. And then as far as like the American side is like, where all the metalcore is from. So like a lot of like Bleeding Through or like God Forbid, and like Bury Your Dead or like Amir, like, all the good breakdown bands and everything like that. So I kind of have an approach where I blend like that melodic death metal with like the metalcore breakdowns, and I also am really big into like folk metal, like Fintroll and Korpiklani and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, those sorts of bands too. And I've started to, because like you don't want to be a band where like you like have a bunch of different genres like in your songs, but I do try to make it like if I see a song or if I'm working on a song and I feel like maybe I could fit something like this in here to fit like different influences. So I had a song on this new album that has like a lot of folk metal kind of influences, like my buddies that are like Ecuadorian folk musicians like recorded some like pan flutes and stuff like that for this one song, and it came out to be have a lot of that kind of folk metal vibe, and I definitely would like to do some more of that in the future. But
Nice.
um so yeah.
Did you have you always done like kind of more weekend warrior type, for going out of state shows, or have you done like, longer stretches like a week or two at a time, going and hitting the road and playing a bunch of venues?
So yeah, honestly, it wasn't really until this year where we started doing that, because back when we were first doing shows in 2011 and 2014, like it was so easy to get on a show. We just like would call a venue and be like, "Hey, I saw that like Corporate Colony is headlining your show. Do you need locals for the show?" And they're like, "Yeah, just sell some tickets and you can play." So back then, we were opening for like huge bands like Corporate Colony and like Toyer and Moon Sorrow and like I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head. But like there's like a lot of big headlining bands or like Sabaton. Like they were not as big as they are at the time or right now, but this time around, because like I said, the last show we did between was 2014, and then 2023 was the first show we did back. The scene is like so different now, just like people say because of COVID and stuff, but I also think it's just how the music industry has changed a lot too, and just
Changed a
business in
lot.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's like you can I've literally like known like bigger bands that I'm like, hey, can we open for you? And it's like a matter of like they can't even control it. It's like a tour package thing, and a lot of these big tours don't even have local, like they don't want local bands on the shows anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
You see a
so
lot of,
we were
like,
struggling.
3-band tour packages too, and a lot of them
Hmm.
are the shows are ending sooner, and that could be because all of our favorite musicians are getting older and they wanna be done earlier. It's
Right.
possible they have bedtimes to hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wears on you, man, I get that, but, like, so this is the first year you've really done more of the, like, kinda weekend warrior touring, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of that comes with just being an adult and having a job and normal responsibilities, being able to work around the 9 to 5 to still go out and play shows and do gigs. Um, like, obviously, that's something you gotta work out, not just with, like, one person, but, like, with 5 other dudes in the band or however many
Yeah.
people you have? So, um how's that working out for you guys so far? I know it's a lot of collaborating. Is everyone, like, kinda, like,
Yeah.
all into the goal?
Yeah, and it was kind of like so like last year, so everybody in the band last year we actually were all like worked remotely. So we were like planning to do tours where we would like drive and like work during the day like on the road and stuff. Because like well as I was mentioning, like last year we were kind of like not really able to get shows. So I started just like trying to book Recurrence and just put together local shows. And then this we kind of did that, and we partnered with a band called Cold Vein, who actually their vocalist lives in New Hampshire. I don't know if you know Acre.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, his band Cold Vein and our band like did like a 5 day kind of like a tour that we put together. Like they booked some dates, and then we booked the other half of the dates. So last year in December we had like our first like real like mini tour where I think we did it was like Thursday through Sunday. Is that 5 days? Maybe. I think it
Yeah,
was something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, so we did like a proper tour like that, and it was a lot of fun. Like I thought it would be like, because bands always say like, "Oh, being on the road sucks. You're away from home, and there's no stability, and like you're like hear all these horror stories." And I don't know, maybe if you're doing that like every day for like 10 years, but for me, it was like the most fun I've ever had like in my
I
life.
love being on the road.
Um,
Yeah, it's something
yeah.
fun, man.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we did our first tour, but like this year time around, like we have different jobs, and we just our we really can only do like shows on like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Friday has to be like a local show. So what I started doing when I was booking shows, because we wanted to play in like places outside of where we normally play. So we've been booking shows on Saturdays that are like, up to like 9 hour drives, and it's people say that's not a really good idea because you're losing money on gas and hotels, and I guess it's probably not, but the idea for me is like I want to play shows, I want to grow a fan base, and the only way that you do that is by playing shows with different bands in different cities. Um, I mean, and plus, like the older you get, like the less people come out to your shows because they're also older. Like all our friends that used
That
to
is
come out and
true.
see us are married with kids. They're
Yeah.
not coming out to a tiny little bar like at midnight, like in some sketchy area to like see metal. Like they have jobs and stuff. It's been a lot trickier, but the way that we've been doing this like Weekend Warrior stuff is we put together like some Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows where Friday would be like local, Saturday would be like, like 4 or 5, 6 hours away, and then Sunday it would be like semi-local, so it'd be like 2 hours away from where we live so that we don't like get home like at 6 a.m. and have to go to work. So we did a couple like 3 day runs, and then we started doing some cities that are like a lot further away, so we would just have a Saturday show because we drive like Saturday morning, do the show, sleep, and then drive back home Sunday. So we did like we just did Birmingham, Alabama, and we did like Memphis was really far,
Love Birmingham. Where
Milwaukee.
did you guys play in Birmingham?
It's this venue called the Nick, which I guess is like one of these old school venues that's still like around. And like they said they've had like the Red Hot Chili Peppers play and like all these bands that like before they were like big used to play there and stuff. So it was kind of cool like being at a I mean, it was like a smaller like bar type venue, but like they had like a proper sound system and stage and everything too. So it was kind of cool being like on the same stage as like, a lot of bigger bands and stuff.
Who does,
Um,
all you guys' booking? Do you do a lot of that yourself, or do you have, like, a manager? Yeah, it's all you?
yeah, me.
It's a lot of
I've
work.
had some people that have gotten to shows. Like there's this guy in Cincinnati that helps out a lot of local bands. He's called Q, and so he would get us booked on a lot of shows. But it's one of those things where it's only like kind of like Cincinnati, Dayton area. So, like I said, it's like impossible to get on shows unless and the basically the reason I've been able to get on so many shows because I'm booking my own band and then collaborating with other locals. So a lot of local bands that I've met just like because we've played with like hundreds of different bands this year because we just played like 39 shows this year, and I think we've done 10 states and like 21 cities, and we play with 4 or 5 bands at a time, so we made a lot of great friends and like connections and stuff, and like a lot of bands that we really enjoy hanging out with and like want to play shows with again. So it's honestly the work of booking shows and finding bands when bands drop at the last minute, and then like paying and doing the money, and then like all the drama that goes with it. It's terrible. It sucks. It's not worth the money. Like even if you paid me like $1 million, well, okay, let me not say $1 million because yeah, I do. But like I'm just saying, like I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't like giving my band the opportunity to play shows and to play shows with like my friends and helping my friends get shows too. That's really what makes it all worth it at the end of the day, and like meeting all these great people that we've met. And sometimes we have like crowds where we think a city's going to be really great, and then the turnout's like not that great, or like people aren't into it. And then we'll go to like a venue that we think is going to suck, and it turns out to be like one of the best shows ever. So it's almost like, I don't want to say it's like exciting or like an adrenaline rush, but it's the that you don't know what you're gonna get. Like you could
You never
expect it to
know.
be a great, yeah, you could expect it to be great and it sucks, or you can expect it to be suck and it would be great. Like
I've had so
even
many
on that.
shows that I was, like, expecting to be total flops and end up being like, I remember there was this one c like, we booked a concert it was outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, when we were driving through, and, it was, like, an abandoned house, and we pull up in this abandoned house, alright, first of all. It has electricity, but no running water. So, like, the whole place is disgusting. It's a house that's not meant to be have people there at all. But the entire upstairs is just like an open floor, and we're like, "Okay, well, this is where we're gonna play." We didn't know who was gonna show up, like, it was, interesting, but we ended up having a full room, and some of our fans brought me homemade cinnamon rolls because they knew I love cinnamon rolls from the internet.
Nice.
And then, dude, that was like one of our most that was probably one of our funnest shows we've played. Like people like moshing and um like, I don't know, it was absolutely wild, and in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, at an abandoned house, but we expected nothing, you know what I mean? So, it
Yeah.
happens like that sometimes, and one thing that we did used to do, and I'm curious if you've taken this approach at all, um, so I was lucky enough where I was actually, a part-time talent buyer at a music venue,
Oh, okay.
and I would, have all these bands hit me up for shows, and I'd be like, "I'll give you a show, but when I come through your town, we do show swaps." So I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll give you a show. I'll give you a guarantee of money, but then when I come through your town, I might never come through your town, but if I do, get me a show. Give me a little bit of money for
Mm.
gas." And you know, a lot of my touring opportunities, and I did a lot of the booking myself too, so I know exactly what you're dealing with over there, dude. It's not easy. It's very thankless, difficult work, and honestly, the rest of your band will never understand how much goes into that. But I
And
appreciate
how
you
much time goes
doing
into
that.
it. It's the time that goes into it.
Yeah.
Just draining. Yeah.
It's honestly, it's great work, dude. But, have you taken that approach at all? Done show swaps where, like, you meet friends in other cities and, you guys kinda just swap shows and stuff?
So not exactly, because like I haven't really like been a talent buyer or like worked anywhere like that. But what I do uh have a lot of times is like kind of like how I mentioned, like meeting like certain bands because I'll just find bands off of like Instagram flyers and just message them like, "Do you want to do this show?" And like I'll check out their music and everything like that. But it's a different thing when you meet these bands for the first time. I like playing shows with not necessarily bands that like I think their music's like amazing or it's what I'm into, but bands that either give a great performance or that are just great dudes to be around. So what I do is like, if I hang out with bands at a show and they're really cool, really vibing well, and like they want to do like more shows, then I'll like book them on other shows too. And we've met a couple bands that are doing the same like DIY, like just booking their own shows like we are. So we like have like a little group of like bands where it's like, hey, I'm gonna do Birmingham. Do you want to do this show? And like, oh, I can't do it. And then I'll talk to these guys. And so we kind of like if you like check out our show history, you'll see us playing. We try to play with different bands every time to play a new audience, but you'll see like a lot of like bands that we do play a lot of shows with, like Unwinding Reality or like Subterfuge or like Encircled Throne or Tastemaker. Trying to think off the top of my head, but like there's some bands that we played like 4 or 5 shows with this year just because like we love hanging out with them and they want to play shows and they're just great to be around and want to like have that experience we so yeah, so all bands that will like, that we've hung out with and they'll just hit us up like, hey, can you jump on this show with us? We need a band because when I meet bands, I tell them like we'll do like any show basically. It's like if it's a Saturday and it's out of town and we can make it, we'll do it. And I've had a lot of bands hit us up and usually the only reason that we say no is because we already have a show booked that day. So like there's a lot of bands that are like trying to get us shows with us, but we're already like booked. So I feel like a lot of that is just kind of that networking and like, the bands that you make friends with along the way, like, and that you talk to them, like I'll ask bands like, where do you want to play? How far are you willing to drive? Like that, so that sort of thing. Cause, if there's like bands that we like know a lot of bands in Nashville and Alabama and like, they're not necessarily wanting to try to drive like 10 hours to Milwaukee or Cleveland or something. But if they're like, oh, we'll come to Cincinnati, then I'm like, okay, if I need some bands to come to Cincinnati, then I can hit you up when I have shows like that. So that's kind of what we've been doing, and I think it's been going really great. So
And honestly, dude, like with that many shows in a year, that's exhausting. That's a lot of work, man. You guys are putting
mm.
a grind over there. Um, and do you guys see that trend continuing into next year? You taking some time off to write and record music, or are you guys just trying to like hit 2026 with the same energy, go out and just hit as many states and shows as possible?
Yeah, so the plan for next year, it's a little bit different because we gotta get the new album finished up. I'm still working on writing it, and just because we've been so busy with doing shows and my new like work schedule, like taking up a lot of time, so I haven't had as much time to write. So I'm hoping that I can get the album written like finished this month or potentially by the end of next month, and then we'll start recording. And recording just like, between having jobs and work schedules and everything, like our last album, I think it took us like 5 months, which is kind of a long time. And then you got to mix and master, which can take 2 or 3 months. So it's one of those things that I want to make sure that we stay on schedule so that we have an album out every 2 years. Um, so I would love to play shows every weekend. I still want to, but it's one of those things that we have to get the album done and we have to have time because playing shows every weekend showed me that I haven't had time to really work on the music like I would like to. So it's like I know that if I'm still keeping up that schedule, I won't be able to finish it up, and we definitely won't like have time to record. So we're definitely gonna like do like a little bit less shows. We still have some booked for like January, February, and March that we had already booked last year. Um, but yeah, we're definitely gonna slow down a little bit, and then as soon as like the album's all like done recording, I want to get back to playing shows like every weekend and stuff too. And we're also like we just had our guitarist and bass player like they had to leave the band for one move to a different state for work, and the other one has like his job. It's not exactly a promotion, but he's doing like a different job now where they're like flying him, like so he's to like fly to like Seattle and like Kansas, and like he's just like I can't like fly back and then like drive 9 hours to Birmingham to do a show. So it's yeah. So right now we're trying to find like band members like it's very challenging to do. I've been basically looking for people like this whole year, and what I think I have now is I have a couple people that know some of our songs, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to like fill in, you know, until we find permanent members. But it's really tricky trying to like book shows when I don't know if I'm gonna have band members like, you know, like to actually perform there. So I'm hoping that by the time we finish like writing and recording, we'll have found some people. Um, but as of now, yeah, it's kind of tricky. So
Yeah, man, it's hard too, like, you know, losing members. I mean, you're when you're especially when you're touring and hitting the road a lot, like it's real it doesn't take a lot, you know. But I think that touring is the thing that separates bands that just play for fun and bands that become more of like a family or a brotherhood. You know what I mean? So
mm,
like I don't know, like going out, you learn a lot about your teammates, right? You learn your
right.
bandmates, and you know, I don't know, like I was fortunate. We didn't have a ton of member changes back when I performed, but I think that's just because we kind of did something similar. You know, right from the get go, we were playing shows out of state and touring and stuff, and um, I think we just formed that brotherhood, and you know, we didn't want to leave. Like, it got to the point where I moved out of state and I was flying back every month or so for practice. You know, it was expensive,
Yeah. Yep.
costing,
Exactly.
expensive, rewarding, but it was, you know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it definitely becomes more of a brotherhood over time, and but losing members is rough, dude. It's hard to find people who are able to just fill those voids, especially once you know somebody, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, especially this last lineup that we've had, like, since I got the band, like, started up again for basically, like, well, probably close to 4 years has been, like, the most stable lineup of Recurrence's, like, career, and it's been the most, like, successful, like, measurably just with putting out albums, and we did, like, tons of music videos, put out singles, and, like, just all the shows we did. It was weird because it was, like, 2025 was, like, the year of Recurrence, and, like, dude, next year we're gonna keep like going harder and harder, and then all of a sudden like just lost. Like we've got me and a drummer now, which thank God we still have a drummer because you know how hard drummers are to find. But like losing the main core, like we were playing shows with just rhythm guitar and we had like backtracked like the bass and stuff, but it's one of those things where like because the rhythm guitar will fill up most of this. We don't sound like as good if we have rhythm and lead, but if we just have rhythm guitar, we can get by. So we were doing shows as just a three piece for a while, but the rhythm guitar is left, so now it's kind of like we kind of really can't do the shows at all. So yeah, it's like things were like going so great, and then all of a sudden we just kind of hit a wall. So,
Do you
but
do most of the writing yourself?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. So you do like a
yeah.
lot of the guitar work and everything, and then they just like your professional guitarists that you have in your band, they just kind of improvise and take it to the next level essentially.
Yeah, because like I mentioned like the original band that I had in high school, we would all try to like write stuff and then we would disagree on things. So I started Recurrence as just a way to like write what I was wanting to write and hope that if other people were like into it, that like we could like get behind it and stuff. So basically I'll like write the songs and then I'll like go to the guys and be like, hey, this is what I've got. Like, how can we make it better? What ideas can we come up with? And we'll like go back and forth on like some different ideas and stuff. Um, because like a lot of times like I'll come up with something and it's one of those things where you forget to think outside of the box sometimes, or you think of like all the other different options. And so like the my buddy Christian that was in the rhythm guitars, and he was actually in the original lineup of Recurrence way back in the day too. So we have a lot of like good ideas together. Well, I'll show him something. He'd be like, "Oh, what if you did this, this, and this?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like why didn't I think of that?" And then we'll like go back and forth, like coming up with like a lot of really cool stuff that really takes the songs to the next level. So yeah, that's kind of the process too. Um, with this new album that we just put out last month, I got to work with like some of my favorite like musicians like that I've been inspired by. I had like guest guitar soloists like Pierre Nilsson of Scar Symmetry and Peter Vissers, who was like the original guitarist of Soilwork, who's like you know one of my biggest influences, Soilwork. They like wrote guitar solos like for my songs, and
That's
like
sick.
mind-blowing stuff. And so it was like one, it was like cool to like work with them, like people that I've looked up to, but then also just like hearing like what they heard my song and like came up with this, and I like could have never could have thought of like that stuff in a million years. So yeah, it's really cool to like just kind of like I just like get everything to where I think it could be, and then just see like what else other people can bring to it, because like different influence and stuff like in different songwriting styles, like people have different ideas, and making things fit and bringing like something new to it is I feel like what takes a song from like like 90% there to like 100% there.
Well, you recently put out a song called Remember Who the Enemy Is, which is a fantastic song and music
I
video,
think
all that. It's gotten some media attention. I guess tell us how that song got put together. 'Cause I think that was a very well done for what you guys were doing. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. It's funny with that song, because when I was working on this album, um, that was a song that I almost cut because it was like not good, and I kept like struggling with it, and like some of the songs just fly out of me, and they're just like the song "The Dusk Fall" for All Humanity. That song I literally just sat down like 8 hours and just was on a roll, and it's like one of my favorite songs, and I'm like, oh, this is great. But then there's other songs where I'll like struggle going back and forth, like trying to figure out like how do I get this song to be what I want it to be. And I remember I was like so frustrated with that song that I was just like, I'm just gonna cut it. And then I just kept thinking like, what if I just like rewrite some stuff or just try something like different? So I started like just kind of rewriting a lot of it, and then like it just kind of sparked that part of me that was like, oh, now I'm seeing all this. And it was crazy because when I like started like wrote it, and then when I was like recording the vocals and stuff, I was like, I think this is like a hit, like for real a hit.
it's awesome.
And
I
it
think
was
that
it
like
was really
working with people that are outside of your normal group sometimes can help with that too. Especially, I know you're bringing
yeah,
people for other guitar work and stuff, but like,
yeah,
just having like other opinions and different ears on it that are also musically inclined, that helps so much. I
mm,
can't tell you how many songs that I wrote that I was like, when I first wrote, I was like, this is a terrible song, and it just sat in my phone in the notes for months or years, and then eventually my guitarist writes this sick riff or something like that, and I'm like, "Oh, I got a lyric for that." And it turns out to be like an absolute banger, right? But like you never know. Sometimes it just like you need to sit on it and wait. Then, you also have those songs where like you could sit down, you could probably crank out the whole song in 5 to 10 minutes, at least the general idea of it, right? Because it just flows, and it's just, mirroring who you are, right? Like it's just it's your reflection or whatever. Um, Sometimes those songs are really easy to do.
yeah,
And sometimes they're difficult. But people that don't write and record, um, they might not see all that other stuff that goes into it. There's a reason that there's a bunch of B-sides too that never get released.
yeah. I kind of always think of it as like these songs are like, oh, this might sound weird, but like they're like my children in a way. Not like, literally, but I always think of them as like you got the ones that are just like the straight A students, you never have to worry about them, they're just good to go. But then you got the ones that are like getting into trouble, and you're like, all right, how do I help you? How do I get this going? And it's like those are the songs that you struggle with the most, and then sometimes they end up like turning out really great. So that's kind of like how I felt with that "Remember Who the Enemy Is" song, because like that song was like really like I was just about to give up on it, and then yeah, so.
Have you guys like tried to look into, like, do you want to get like signed to a label, or is this like a DIY
Oh
till
yeah.
I die?
No, yeah. Yeah, we absolutely would love to be like on a major label. Like we're on like an independent label now, and I mean, I've like submitted all of our records and demos to like labels and not heard anything back, and like they don't even like check them. Like back in the day, you used to like send a demo and get signed, but that's like not a thing anymore, and I don't even know how to get signed. I feel like you have to be an industry plant or like know somebody in the industry or be like super super talented but also like have a great marketing team, and I've tried to like get PR teams, and I've tried to like figure out like how to grow your following and like all this stuff, and it's just been it's been a struggle. But I would love to be like signed to like one of these like bigger labels, because like I said, that's just like all the bands that I grew up like that's what you did. And there's a lot of like different opinions these days. Like there's a lot of the internet and all that has made a lot for makes it like better for independent artists in a way to be successful, but at the same time, it's still more challenging to be successful as an artist. And I felt like, these bands that are on bigger labels, like, yeah, some of them, like, might fizzle out or whatever, but like, there's some bands that have been doing it for like 30 years on a big label, and it's like, those are the bands that are like really talented people and doing it like hardcore and wanting it to be their dream. And I just feel like that's kind of the next step, or I feel like if like if I was able to get this music out to like, like the right audience or something, because I feel like a part of the label is promoting the material to this like wider audience and having like those connections where they can get you in touch with people that can get you on tours and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like the thing that makes it kind of separates the DIY or the amateurs or intermediates to like the professionals. And like no disrespect to anything like that, but that's just kind of, I mean, all the bands that are like super huge, like touring bands that have been doing it, they're all signed to major labels. It's like I said, it is possible for a lot of independent artists, especially with like rap and pop and stuff, but I don't see like a lot of independent, like unsigned metal bands that are like just super huge. Or if they are, it's because they were on a big label and then they went independent because they were so big and had that fan base to go off of. So that's the dream of mine, because I feel like it's really going to be the way that would open doors. And there's going to be like different struggles and stuff with it, but I feel like I can only get my audience like as big as I can on my own or with other marketing teams, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
feel
that's
like
the
I've
thing, like,
just
with
exhausted
technology
that.
advancing, like, so quickly right now with AI music, like, technology's everywhere, and people's attention spans are, like I said, shorter than ever, so you gotta get their attention and then keep their attention, and that's very difficult to do in an algorithmic social
Yep,
media world, right?
yep,
And, you have to be like that's a job. Like, that's a whole ass job to, like, you have to be good at that stuff to go online and, I think that you can find success as a band DIY doing all that. It's not for everyone, um, but that's probably, in my opinion, more the future. I don't think labels are as necessary as they used to be. We might disagree
right.
on that a little bit, but I do think that there's still, utility in a label, especially, obviously bringing you into their fan base and their already built, audience that they're putting stuff out to, getting you on to major touring packages because of connections and networking.
Right.
And a lot of my friends' bands that ended up getting signed to major labels like Solid State or Victory or, Hopeless Records and all this stuff, they ended up, doing their time, and then out of the networking connections that they had while they were there, they went DIY after that and made a killing. Like, they made more money
Yep.
than they ever did with the label as a DIY band, just because they had the connections. So now, they're touring with major bands, and it's as simple as their singer from this major band texting the singer from my friend's band and just saying, "Hey, you wanna go on tour with us this fall?" You know what I mean? It's not going
Right.
through all these management labels, um, um, but I can appreciate it, man. Like, it's a grind. I definitely had a couple opportunities to get onto some smaller labels back in the day, but I don't think, it was right for us. We were definitely more the DIY road. I just like to control everything myself, and we were never gonna make a career out of it, you know what I mean? So, we were
Mm,
all, like, adults by the end of that, and, we had great opportunities, but, we had really good jobs too. Um, we weren't gonna, like, drop everything and just go tour full time or anything like that. So,
yeah.
signing to a label for us didn't make sense. But, it's a dream, man. Like, it's a lot of people's dream, and, uh,
Yeah.
I wish you guys luck with that because it's really difficult to even get your songs heard, So,
Yes, it is. Yeah. Absolutely.
even by people who already like your style of music, like walking down the
Yeah.
street, it's hard to get people to even give you the time of day because they're distracted by a million other things, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I've got like bands that like I love and like they'll put out a new album and I remember when I was younger and had more time, I would like listen to it the day of. Now I've got like it's like a month and I've got like this queue of like albums I haven't even got to listen to because I've been so busy. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely one of those things that like you, especially the older you get, I feel like you have like less time.
yeah,
So I
for
don't
sure.
know.
I mean, I know I am. I'm spread so thin. Like it's taken us how long to get even this thing going?
Yeah, like it's been a few
We've
months.
been
Yeah,
rescheduling interview here
yeah,
for a long time. And it's just because, things just didn't work schedule wise. I got a new
right.
recording setup. It's been a lot going on. But we're all busy. And then you're touring freaking next level dude. So it's one of those things where my dog came to visit me. That's adorable. Um, but yeah, so how did you get into heavy music in the first place?
Yeah, I think it was just one of those things like when I kind of like how I mentioned when I was a kid. I remember like a couple like instances where I was like into like my parents listened to like country and stuff like that when I was a kid. And like I got into like, back when MTV was like out and like was watching TRL and all these music videos and um I just started like learning about more music and I was like listening to the radio all the time because that was a thing back in the day. And so like I would always like try to find new music and see what I liked and um I started getting into like new metal like System of a Down and Korn and like Disturbed and like all those bands back in the day. Um and I remember I started like buying like compilation CDs and like soundtracks
Yeah.
so they would have like a bunch of different artists on one CD, and I would like listen to it and try to find new artists that way. And I remembered that I heard on the radio that there was something called Ozfest, where it was like a tour, and they like listed like 30 bands, and like literally like all those bands were like on a couple of these CDs that I had been listening to, and I was like, that's like 30 bands that I want to see. I was like, I gotta go to this. And so I got my dad to take me. I think I was like 11 or 12 at Ozfest 2002 and it just kind of changed everything. And from there, I was like, I wanted to go like every year, and I was like finding all this new music and stuff. And then eventually, like I think around like 2003 or four, I started getting into more of like the heavier like with screaming and stuff, and I started like listening to like those bands like In Flames and like Soilwork and Arch Enemy, Children of Bodom, like all those melodic bands. Because like before, I hadn't heard anything like that, and I just like was like in love with all like the melody and the guitars and all the like the synths and keyboards. I was like, I didn't know you could have keyboards and synths and metal, and so yeah, it really was just like that. Because I mean, I'd been influenced by like I said, like pop and rap and all kinds of music, but metal, I was just drawn to just like the energy and um. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it just sounds like really angry, and I mean, I guess maybe it
There's a
does,
lot of
but to me,
really
it was
good
just
metal festivals out there too. Like
yeah,
solid,
yeah,
but
exactly.
it is weird, like some of them, you look at the lineups, they would have been the same exact lineup 15 or 20 years ago because,
Mm,
we just all feast on the nostalgia. Um,
right.
it's I don't know, man, like it's a community. Metal, like you go to a concert, you're all there for the same reason to enjoy the show because know, reflect on the lyrics and they mean something to you. And there's politics sometimes, but like um a lot of that like doesn't really it kind of goes by the wayside a lot of time. Some bands will
Mm,
make politics their identity, but it's refreshing to go to a place and just go there for the music and just connect with people and just everyone's singing their lungs out at the same time to the same song. It's awesome, dude. It's a community and um I can tell you guys are building your own community, where you guys are. And I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck going into 2026, man. I know it's going to be a crazy year and um I hope you guys do get signed. If that's what you guys want, I hope you guys get signed and do all the biggest tours. Um
yeah, very
we'll
true.
wrap up and we're getting close to the end here. I guess tell everybody where they can find your music and your music videos. And then, tell them something that they can look forward to in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on like pretty much all the platforms like Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. We're pretty active on like Instagram, for social media. Our handle is at Recurrence or Die. like live free or die. I just thought recurrence or die, so I thought that was cool. But yeah, so
Yeah, it's
recurrence
awesome.
or die. Or some I think like Twitter, or I don't know, some of them might just be like official Recurrence. But yeah, Recurrence or Die. Our website is w.recurrence.band, like BAND, like a music band. Recurrence.band. Um, you can check out anything. All our links to our music are on the website. We use the Bands in Town app, so like it's this app that tells you like when your artists that you follow are coming to near you. So we post all of our shows on there. You get notified when we're coming to your city. Um, yeah, all of our music videos on YouTube. What else? Yeah, we just put out the second album, Artist Survival, on the 5th of November, so about a month ago. So you can check it out. Let us know what songs you want to hear. We're playing a lot of those songs live now. It's been a lot of fun. And working on album number 3. Hopefully yeah, hopefully we'll get you some new music soon and be playing in your cities sometime soon. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'd definitely love to have you back for an update, probably here sometime next year, and we'll see, how things are progressing, and maybe some new music coming out.
Yeah.
So that'd be
Yeah, that'd
cool.
be great.
All
Yeah,
right, man.
absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I'll drop you backstage, and we'll talk in a few minutes. All right.
Sounds good. All right, take care. Thanks, everybody. See you.
All right, guys. Thanks again so much for watching. This was a fun one. Hopefully, we'll get some more musicians and artists on. And I do have a couple cool announcements coming up here very soon. I can't share them yet, but I think like within the next week or two, you'll get some announcements and you'll be stoked. Hopefully, as stoked as I am. I'm really stoked. So, um, but yeah, that's all I got for you tonight. Have a good one. See ya. Coming for the